Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the October 14th, 2025 Kent Memorial Library Commission regular meeting. We'll start with roll call. Corbin Azigare. Here. Michael Alexopoulos. Michael's not here. Julie Bodnar.
Here.
Ann Baracci. Ann Baracci is not going to be here. Denise Boughton. Denise is not going to be here. James Irwin.
Here.
Claire Kowalik.
Here.
Nina Kendrick.
Here.
Bob Parks.
Here.
Christine Sinopoli, that's myself. Fred Schweitzer.
Here.
And Despina Tartsinis.
Here.
Super. And then we also have our library director, Amy Vasilla, and our assistant library director, Liz Bologna. First, I have some housekeeping items. The meeting location tonight, as you've noticed, we're having an in-person meeting at Suffield Middle School Auditorium because I had proactively booked the middle school as a backup location. Since we did have another meeting, there was some social media indication that it might be well attended, and it is important for the commission to carry on its business. Also, when I was filing the agenda, I did take a look at the town calendar, and I did notice that there were 4 commissions scheduled to meet tonight at Town Hall. So I just want to say that the Library Commission had booked the Town Hall. We meet 9 times a year for regular meetings. We're off in July and August. In December, we have a finance-only meeting. And meeting space in Suffield is at a premium. I think a lot of us know that, so I just want to remind everyone of that. And then also during election season, there's more need for meeting space. So it's difficult. But we do have our meeting space tonight, I'm glad to say. And we also have a live stream so that people are able to view it from home if they so choose. Public comment is in person only. And to the best of my knowledge, the meeting is in compliance with the FOIA requirements. So just to remind people, and then also for anyone who may be new, as far as the ground rules for conducting a meeting, it's the chair's responsibility to keep in with Robert's Rules of Order, which our bylaws reference. And we'll do our usual, the commissioners will be asked to show their hands and then be recognized by the chair to speak. Okay, so next, I'd like to bring to the commission's attention that Amy had asked me back in September by email to add something to the agenda, to which I agreed, and I forgot to add it. So I apologize for that, but I would like to ask a commissioner to make a motion to amend the agenda. So if you look at your agenda under number 5, V, period, report of the director, I'd like to add A, atrium funding discussion and possible vote, because we do need to talk about that.
I move we amend the agenda to add item VA, 5A to, easy for you to say,
That's right.
for the atrium financing discussion and possible vote.
Funding discussion, right?
Right.
Do I hear a second?
This is Corbin, I'll second.
Okay. So Corbin seconded it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so it's unanimous. And I also would like to note that Commissioner Alexopoulos has joined us, so I will mark him as present. Now we're going to move on to agenda item number 2, which is public participation. And I'd like to just lay some of the ground rules, if you will, for that. We ask you to come over here to the podium, use the microphone, state your name, state your address, and then you'll have 2 minutes. When your 2 minutes are up, I'll simply say, thank you, Mrs. Jones, and we'll move on to the next person so that everyone has time to say their piece. So by a show of hands, would anyone like to make public comment? Bob?
Bob White, 995 Newgate. It is something I'm supposed to turn on?
Is it not working?
Testing, testing.
There's a button on the side.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Bob White, 995 Newgate Road. It is the duty of the Library Commission to employ a library director. This means not just hiring, but working to be a good supervisor of the director. Traditionally, the members of the Personnel Subcommittee are responsible for having 2 meetings with the library director each January. The first meeting is a performance evaluation. The second is for setting goals for the director for the coming calendar year. I was chosen to do the one-on-one performance evaluation and goal-setting meetings with each of the previous 2 library directors, since I had experience in a previous job doing dozens of these meetings with people who reported to me. 3 years ago, in 2022, the Personnel Subcommittee members started working on this task in the early fall. We sought input on the pros and cons of the director's performance from every member of the Library Commission, every member of the Library Foundation, every member of the Friends of the Library Board, and all 5 town selectmen. We developed a survey to be filled out anonymously by library staff members, asking each person to rate the director on about a dozen aspects of that director's performance. The summary of all this information was the basis for the performance evaluation meeting. The goal-setting meeting was not to impose goals, but to develop agreed-upon goals in collaboration with the library director. Both meetings in January 2023 went very well. However, the following December, the town selectmen chose to remove from the Library Commission the 3 people who did all the work for that Personnel Subcommittee. I want to stress to this current Personnel Subcommittee the importance of having these meetings done yearly in a fair but sensitive way. The time to start gathering your information is now.
Thank you, Bob. John?
Hi, John Murphy, 18 Downing Way. I have a couple thoughts and comments. More? Can you see it? Is it working?
Speak more into it.
Okay. John Murphy, 18 Downing Way, Suffield. I have a couple thoughts and comments. They're all pertaining to the practicality of what's going on today. A couple weeks ago, the state came down with some of these policies that all towns had to implement. They provided a checklist. That checklist was very, very daunting and tedious, but these people came together. Christine put together a subcommittee to talk about those policies and put together a policy that's going to be fair, neutral, and balanced for the town of Suffield. Christine created that subcommittee. I attended both of those things. I thought it was a great bipartisan, fully debated, very healthy debate on issues that are sensitive to the people in this town. I thought it was very, very positive, very, very positive. Nima started talking about the books. Let's jump right to the case. The books that she talked about were kind of raunchy if you look at it. I'm no prude. I've been around the block a long time, but I don't think these books should be in a section 12 to 17. We're not talking about censoring. All we're talking about is moving them to a more adult-related section. And I thought the board members here were kind of somewhat in agreement. Let's face it, these books, if you really read them and look at them, it's kiddie porn. That's all it is. And if I was to read that book outside outside the school or on Main Street, I'd be arrested. But for some reason, it's okay in a library to have 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, and 14-year-olds read these books. I'm a father of 4 kids, 3 boys and a daughter, and I never had a problem with any of this stuff years ago. So the question is, who decides which books go where? We say the ALA or the library director, but who really decides? And then as far as the books, the LGBT and the trans books, I don't care what people do in their life. I really don't care. However, if you're gonna have books talking and promoting about one's lifestyle, you should have books equally talking about the other kind.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Okay, thanks.
Neil?
Thank you, Neil Hornish, Thrall Avenue. First, I would like to thank the chairwoman. I'd like to thank the chairwoman for including the marked print of the policy in the agenda. I appreciate the transparency. I did not attend the policy subcommittee meeting, so my comments are just based on what I read in the minutes and what I've seen on social media. And talking about the books, there were excerpts from books that were brought up that some people found objectionable. And on social media, it went 2 ways. One side yelling, we've got pornography in front of our children in the library. And the other side saying, it's the parents' responsibility. And I agree completely that the parents are ultimately responsible for what their children read. But to just leave it at that, I don't think helps move the conversation forward. I think it's fine to discuss these books. What I was disappointed in is in the minutes, it didn't seem to be any reference to the context of what was found objectionable. That wasn't discussed. And since I only have 2 minutes, just focusing on one, Flamer, which I have 2 of the books with me tonight. Flamer it's a book about a young teen who is going through puberty and figuring out his sexuality and figuring out how to deal with fitting in and dealing with peer pressure and dealing with bullying and thoughts of suicide. And these are things that teenagers, young adults, are dealing with. So if you want to have a discussion, great, but keep it within the context of the whole book. And I would suggest the discussion should probably first start with finding some of the teenagers who are reading this book and finding what they're taking away from it. I think that you'd probably have a more intelligent, thoughtful, and honest conversation with those teenagers than some of the comments I'm seeing adults post on social media. I think in the end, let the librarians do their job. I think they're doing a great job. There's no indoctrination. And for every book about LGBT or any other community, there are plenty of books. There are more books focusing on the other side. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Neil. In the back.
Hi, my name is Kendra Wiesel. I live at 15 Dara Lane. I was at one of the policy subcommittee meetings and a few of the other library meetings over the past couple months. I would like to voice my concern, which I've done before, regarding the operating procedures of the board, and more specifically its approach to the required Connecticut state library policies. I really do find, I agree that the debate at times was very respectful and productive in many ways, but I think it's irresponsible that under the leadership of Chairperson Snobley, this policy process was dragged right up until the submission deadline. It wasn't a couple weeks ago, it was actually, the law was passed in June, just for a point of reference. So, you know, even after 8 hours of subcommittee debate in September and having had working drafts that were put together by the town's own librarian, inadequate policies were submitted and subsequently rejected by the state. I really applaud the members of the committee that patiently and respectfully stood up for Suffield, and I hope that the policy issues are able to be resolved in a timely manner before the November 1st approval deadline. It's been quite clear that certain members of this commission have a personal agenda. Their efforts to censor LGBTQ+ materials in our library, and moving is censorship, just another point of context here, is not only dangerous, but it's deeply un-American, which is ironic. The endeavors are not about protecting children, that's in air quotes, Labeling LGBTQ materials as pornography is really a sensational tactic. It's meant to enrage the public and get their attention. Attempts to silence voices and erase identities by removing or censoring materials sends the message to young people and families that their stories don't deserve to be heard. That's not protection, that's harmful. Neil's point is about intent. It's not meant to arouse, that's what pornography's definition is. It's meant to educate and it's meant to include. And when you purport that it's not, you're really not telling the whole story. Our library should not be a battleground for ideological control, but rather a space for knowledge, reflection, and inclusion.
Thank you. In the back, Scott.
Scott Gilmartin, 759 Hale Street. I just really became aware of what was in some of these books that have been the subject of discussion over the last week. And a book that has sections in it talking about young boys masturbating into a cup and then potentially drinking it, that does not belong in a children's section, in a young adult section, and I question whether it belongs in an adult section. And there are other things as well that are in some of these books that I can't really begin to vocalize. But those of you on the commission know what they are. This should not be something that young people should be able to wander into and be looking at. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Annie?
Thank you. Annie Hornish, 864 Thrall Avenue. A couple comments. These are two of the books cited in the literature that was handed out. This is a sex ed book. It's not pornography. It's the 20th anniversary edition. So just to, again, put that in context. And also, at the end of the book of Flamer, the author writes in the afterword, I'm just going to read really briefly here, this book is a work of fiction, and yet much of it is based on my personal experiences. I grew up scouting from a tiger cub all the way up to and assistant scout master. There are many things I am grateful for. Scouting got me outside, it taught me how to work with others, it gave me self-confidence. It was a way to meet people who did not go to my school. He goes on with the good things about it. However, there were experiences I had during my time in the Boy Scouts that were very hard as a closeted kid. Over the years, the Boy Scouts have become more inclusive of sexual orientation and gender thanks to people in and out of scouting who made their voices heard. But when I was a kid, it was not okay to be gay. In 1995, the year in which this book is set, gay and queer people were routinely vilified, ridiculed, and hated. Fear of AIDS only fueled the bigotry. Back then, gay adult scout leaders who came out were immediately removed from their post. Though scout bylaws have become more inclusive, homophobia still exists in many troops today because homophobia is nationally and internationally a systemic issue. Like my character Aiden, I felt overwhelmed by this culture of hatred. And he goes on talking about how he wanted to kill himself. And then he concludes by saying, fear and hope are bound up together inside of us, alongside our flaws and our divinity. In this darkness, we can find an inner light to guide us. And there is light in you, even if you can't see it. So he was doing this to help people struggling. And on the front cover, this book will save lives, written from author Jarrett Kraskowska, who is nationally acclaimed.
Thank you, Annie. Would anyone else like to make public comment? Dave?
Yeah, you might want to turn the camera off if you want to see the pictures.
it's a public meeting, that's,
Little kids on there.
I'm backed up.
So you could just state a warning then.
Okay,
For
my name's Dave
viewers.
Shudo, I live in Holiday Avenue.
I'm-
I've attended several meetings myself, trying to stay abreast of what's going on. When I saw the presentation last month, it really disturbed me. I'm just asking the board to use some common sense, some reasonableness to where the books are displayed at the library and who has access to them, readily access available. These kids are walking up from the middle school, going into the libraries, pulling stuff off the shelf. When they hear something like this, they get curious. And some of the things that were in the books, and I sent out copies tonight, are very disturbing. There's a kid jerking off watching his father's porn videos. There's never been porn in my house. I have 4 kids. There's never been porn in my house. It makes it look like this is an everyday thing. It's not. It's not. I try to bring my children up correctly, not to see women be abused, be used, but these books defy that. And it's not good for kids, in my opinion. I just wanted to voice my opinion on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to make a public comment? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to the minutes. Is there any discussion of the minutes, or would someone like to make a motion for their acceptance?
Motion to accept. Julie Bledner? No.
Sure, whatever you want.
I just had a couple slight corrections. On page 2, I mistakenly wrote that Commissioner Barachi motioned that I be nominated for the office of secretary. It wasn't officially a motion, so I'll just amend that if that's okay. Commissioner Barachi nominated Commissioner Kendrick. And then page 2, on the June 10th, I think it's page 2, the June 10th minutes, I just have the list. I have Schweitzer twice, so I'll amend that to say Sinopoli but voted in favor. And that's it for corrections.
I'm sorry, where do you see Schweitzer twice? Where's the first time, please?
Schweitzer in favor and Schweitzer one abstention.
Oh, thank you. Okay, yeah, we have to correct that.
Corbin has one as well.
Corbin?
In the September 9th minutes, page 2, down at the bottom. Oh, mine died. Sorry. Can you hold it? September 9th minutes, page 2, down at the bottom, report of standing committees. My name is just spelled wrong.
Okay, let's correct that. Adzigrey, correct? And then, since we're making some corrections, I think on page 3, under the heading policy, we could also reference Donnelly's letter to KMLC Policy Subcommittee dated September 9, 2025. If you want to just. Do you want to read that?
I'm not following.
Wasn't it at this meeting that Derek Donnelly spoke from his letter to the policy subcommittee?
Yes.
He referenced it. Yeah, he referenced his September 9th letter.
So I think that, to be clear, we could make it plain that he did that.
What language do you want me to add and where?
Okay,
Can I recommend we reference him as town attorney Donnelly, as opposed to just Donnelly?
maybe start the sentence 1, 2, 3, 4 lines down. Town attorney Derek Donnelly read from his letter dated September 9, 2025, to the KMLC Policy Subcommittee, comma, and commented on the new legislation, et cetera. Do the other commissioners, are they good with that?
Yep.
Okay. Are there any other corrections to the minutes? Okay, who hasn't made a motion in a while? Who'd like to make the motion? Michael?
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes as corrected.
September 9th, 2025 minutes. Do I hear a second?
I will second.
Claire? We'll get Claire Kowalik as a second. And those all in favor? Okay, the motion is unanimous. Item number 4, communications. I have not received any communications. Has any other commissioner received any communications? I just want to use this as an opportunity, especially since we have a new commissioner, Fred, that if you do receive a communication, it's your responsibility to forward it to the chair, who then disseminates it to the entire commission for reading. And next we have the report of the director by Amy Vasella.
Hi, everyone. It's working okay? It's green. Hello.
No, it's not working.
Hello. I think it is. Sort of. Yeah, kind of working. Okay. So as you can see, our circulation statistics are up slightly from last year. We had 7,558 items, both digital and print, circulate. For other statistics, I'm sorry, there's a typo there. I will correct that and send out the corrected copy to everyone. This month is not June, August. It is, in fact, September. So our door count is 8,234, and the actual count was 16,468. But as I talked about last month, I'm now having that because the assumption is if someone comes in the building, they're probably exiting the building. For programming, we had 19 adult programs, a total attendance of 159. We had the Suffield players come. We had a great Gatsby Bash, a gluten-free group chat, which is a new program that Liz is running, which seems to be well received. Teens, we had 1 program with a total attendance of 4, and we had 1 volunteer who volunteered 6 hours of time. Children's programs, we had 9 with a total attendance of 246. We had 1 volunteer under the age of 13, and they put in 4 hours. For all ages programming, we had 4 with a total attendance of 46, and one of those was the Positive Rescue Division adoption event, so we keep having them come and bringing puppies to the library and dogs that need homes, and that's always popular, and especially with the staff. They'll go up and pet the pups. For personnel, Deirdre had her 90-day review. She's one of our clerks that was obviously recently hired. She's doing a great job and fitting in really well with the staff. We love her. For facility, the emergency exit stairs in the reference area have not been installed. When I wrote this report, I didn't see them there today either. I've been informed that they should be arriving any time now, so hopefully we get those emergency stairs back in place quickly. For funding, the Friends of the Library met on September 15th at 7 p.m. on Zoom. They voted to fund a refresh of the staff break room. I got couch, chairs, floor lamp, placemats, and some miscellaneous decorative things. Looks great. Thank you, friends. Meditation series, the Suffield Players reading, craft supplies, Halloween decorations and programming, and sensory programming. So thank you to them. The foundation met on the 25th of September at 7 p.m. We discussed funding for the atrium project, but I didn't make any formal requests at that time, so I don't have anything to report on that front. We collected $61.78 in library fines. For other updates, we participated in Suffield on the Green on September 6th and 7th. Despite the uncooperative weather, we had a steady stream of visits to our tent. The rubber ducks were super popular. And we had these kind of sticky gummy frogs too. Those were popular, but not as much as the rubber ducks. So next year, we're definitely gonna have to do those again. DVDs, paperbacks, easy readers, and juvenile graphic novels in the children's department were part of a collection assessment and weeding project. It's still ongoing. I was hoping I'd have an update on any weeding projects in the adult collection, but Pinky and Sabina were both out on vacation last week, so I wasn't able to get one. Upcoming items of note, we have our annual Diwali celebration that will take place on October 22nd. We're participating in the trick-or-treat festivities on October 31st, so the building's gonna be lit really cool for Halloween, and staff will be dressed up and we'll have candy, and I'm decorating the atrium like a graveyard, so hopefully it'll be spooky. A collection assessment and weeding project of the young adult materials will take place during the late fall and winter. And Anna and I will be conducting a comprehensive community analysis that will begin in mid-January. We don't know when the last time a community analysis was done, but that's an important part of serving the community. So we're going to be sending out some user surveys, conducting focus groups and things like that to see what the community's needs are so that we can, kind of tailor things to that. So that's it for that report.
Amy, I wanted to ask you about The Great Gatsby. Was that the 1974 with Sam Waterston and Mia Farrow? Do you know? Or was it
I do not know which version it was.
Okay.
There you go, Robert
Oh,
Redford.
that's Robert, yeah. Okay, great. Does anyone have any comments or questions for Amy? I just want to say that I also read your article in on the Kent Memorial Library in the Suffield Observer on the pumpkins, and I really enjoyed it. And it's very true that pumpkin flavor is everywhere now.
It is, and it's hard to come up with a topic every month, though. I'm like, give me a prompt, please. So I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Okay, so we will move along since we amended the agenda. Now we're coming upon letter A, the atrium funding discussion and possible vote. So I will ask Amy to speak to that.
So when I went to the ACE committee for a request for funding, my original estimates for the project, I got two estimates before I came up with this proposal for this project. And the estimates I received were in the $40,000 range, $42,000. And when I added in furniture, the total estimate for the project was $48,397. So, as everyone on the commission is aware, I secured funding, a third from the commission, a third from the Library Foundation, and a third from the town. Well, when Lee put the RFP out, bids came in significantly higher. So the lowest bid was for $85,046. So obviously there's a huge gap in funding there that we need to make up. So I am looking to have each of the groups, again, contribute a third of that overage. So I am seeking to get $12,300 from the town, $12,300 from the commission, and the same from the Library Foundation. So I want to request from the commission an additional $12,300 towards the atrium project in hopes that we can get this done.
Can you give me the number of the difference, or can somebody punch that out?
It's like 36. It came in almost done.
Corbin?
So sorry, this is Corbin. I went to the ACE thing with Amy, and I've been to some meetings. And when we met with Lee to find out more information what happened, I just want everybody to know that Amy did the right thing. The initial quotes, that's what you would take to go out to RFP. The companies that gave us those initial quotes actually never came back and gave us a new quote, which is unprofessional. In some ways, Lee was very disappointed with that as well. So I want everybody to know Amy did all the right things. The difference, it almost doubled.
Yep.
The cost nearly
36
doubled, 36,000.
649.
And our original was 48. A big part of it is our library in the back is built in a hole, and you have to get a bunch of rocks out of a hole. And that's where a significant part of the expense is. What I understood from the meeting is if she can secure the funds, we can send the RFP out with some different parameters to maybe not have a crane come in and see if that can help reduce the cost. But at this point, it won't be probably until the spring, and costs may go up. So I would encourage the commission to even give a little leeway so she doesn't have to keep coming back and asking for 5,000 here and there if we want the project to go.
Okay, I just want to quickly interject just for the education of the public. The ACE committee stands for the Advisory Commission on Capital Expenditures. And also RFP is request for proposal for those of you who may not know that. Certainly this is very important. It's an issue. Amy, do you want to say a few more words about that? I saw you eager.
Yeah. So the Board of Selectmen discussed this at their last meeting and indicated that they were behind funding a third of it. It got tabled because Lee needed to double check if the contractors who bid, if the low bid, if they would stick to that estimate. And he did get back to me last week that they said that they would. So if I were to make an assumption, it would be that the Board of Selectmen will follow through with recommending that funding of that overage. So, yeah.
We don't want it to increase again.
No, I was very glad to hear that.
Okay, so I'd like to hear from the commissioners. Claire?
So refresh my memory, what would our total commitment be?
Let me see. Gotta get out the trusty calculator.
Chair,
Oh, I'm
So-
sorry, Michael.
this is Alex Opoulos, board member. Be about 28.6.
Yeah, 28, 348, give or take a little.
Okay, so about 2,500. We'll just
Yeah. If you want a nice round.
make a
figure.
simple,
Yep.
Anyone else? Comments? Observations? I thought I saw another hand up over there. Bob?
If not, how did the lowest bid compare to the other two?
They were within a few $1,000s of each other.
Did any include anything significantly different than the others?
I don't believe so, but I didn't ask that of Lee. Specifically, when he wrote the RFP, he wrote very specific parameters of what we wanted and what was expected. So everybody came in, within a small variance of each other.
Are you and Lee happy with the lower bid?
I don't really know too much about who bid or what was said. I was surprised by how much higher the bids came in, given that I got estimates before I came up with this proposal. So in that regard, I was not very happy seeing this huge figure. But I was happy with the parameters of the project because I gave them to Lee so that he could write the proposal. And I have, the proposal here that I presented to the ACE committee. So I'm happy if any commissioners want to look at it, I'm happy to give it to you. You can kind of see what I proposed for the project, the scope of the project.
Michael?
Commissioner Alexopoulos. Amy, when we met, one of the outcomes of the meeting was the possibility of us seeking some local donations from vendors. Did we pursue that yet, or is that part of the future?
I have not pursued that yet, but if I get funding from the different sources, my intention is to still try to get as many donations as I can. I did ask Colin for Northern, the contact info for the owners of Northern, to see if they would be interested in donating perhaps some of the hardscape materials or plants, things like that. So I'm hoping that I can get that commitment, and then if I can work out donations, great, everyone will, get some money back out of it, but I'm not relying on that at this point.
Can I, Corbin?
I was gonna say, can I just motion to approve the request for funding?
Now, my question would be, is this conditional upon the town and the foundation? Because has the foundation, we have not asked them to pony up additional funds, right?
Yes,
Not yet.
correct.
And how about the town?
The town, as I said in the board meeting, they did indicate that they would be behind that.
Okay.
So I'm fairly confident I can get 2/3. I still need to approach the foundation and actually ask them. We did discuss it a little bit, but I didn't formally ask them if they would be willing to. So whether or not the commission makes it conditional, I suppose would be up to you.
So that's my question, or up for discussion. I'd like to hear from the commission. Do we want to make this conditional? Jim?
I would think we should. It would make sense to be sure that everybody else is in, because if we up our end of it and then they don't follow suit, then you're gonna have to come back for even more. So I would say conditional upon the town, which seemed like they were moving in that direction as well, and the foundation being on board. I would agree with that motion.
Bob, did you want to say something?
Are we pretty firm with the 12,300?
Yes, that, because I divided up the difference between the two proposals and then divided it by 3. I subtracted it and then divided it by 3, so.
Then I guess I would like to make a motion that we accept the proposal contingent upon the other two entities coming up with the $12,300 each.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Fred Schweitzer seconded it. And all those in favor? Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Super. Okay, now we are at item 6, the report of standing committees. First, we have building and grounds. That's Corbin. And do you have anything additional to report?
Yes, so we met about the atrium. We also asked Lee about some of the drainage in the courtyard, because there's some tall ones that look like they're not doing anything, but he explained to us that they are. We talked about the ivy on the trees, and the landscaper had certain projects they were working on, but it was going to get on their list of things to do. We also asked what we can do to beautify that space, help that space. Lee is not opposed to us getting a volunteer group to rip out. So there's the bottom courtyard, there's a little hill, sort of a pathway around, and then another little grassy area before it gets up to, I don't know, the sidewalk. So this area down here, he was fine if we took it all out and put in some sort of ground cover. He made some suggestions of different ground covers that could work. And he was fine if that was volunteer work, suggested where we could maybe get donations for extra dirt, plants, that sort of thing. He also pointed out, and this is just so the commission knows, in that area, the steps in the courtyard that go up against the building, there are some bricks out of place. The patio has some things that need to be redone. It's the mortar in between, some of the railings. So there are other expenses. We do have a building to maintain coming up. As long as they aren't a safety issue, I would recommend that we focus on the atrium, get that all set, and then start working on making the courtyard functional, safe, and pretty at the same time. Since I will be leaving at the end of this term, my plan is to get this written up and leave it with whoever with the chair, and then January, when you guys reestablish, the next chair of the subcommittee can just pick it up and move on.
Does anyone have any questions for Corbin? Christina?
This is Despina Tartzinis. Corbin, I believe I had alerted you to something that I had found in reviewing minutes from the Economic Development Commission, as well as the Historic Commission with regard to an information kiosk that's going to be placed in front of the library. Is that something that you were able to get some additional information?
No, because I'm spending night and day on the policy subcommittee.
Okay. So do you mind me just briefly saying?
Yeah,
okay.
please do.
You know, I just happened to be reviewing minutes from those two entities, and I did notice that there was reference to the EDC placing an information kiosk, like a town information kiosk. They were seeking approval from the Historic District Commission to place it on Main Street. That was denied, and then it was affirmatively stated that it would be placed at the ZAC entrance at the library. So I've been on the commission for about 5 years, and this is the first I've heard of that. So I think that if something's going to be placed on the in or about or around the library, I would have hoped the commission would have been alerted, but maybe some of the more senior members of our commission, and I don't mean senior by age, just have been on the commission longer than I, maybe have some information about this information kiosk, whether you've heard about it before. It's supposed to be some digital kiosk that has information about the town, directions, weather, stuff like that.
I have not been notified about it. Michael?
Michael Alexopoulos, qualifying for both senior under both definitions. Haven't heard about it in the past, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jim?
Yeah, I just have one question. Where exactly are they talking about positioning this? Do we have any indication?
I can tell you because they came to me recently and asked me where a good spot would be, which is about all I know about it. And I kind of guided them to, you know, you don't want it in front of the book drop, you don't want to have it blocking the plants or anything like that. So I don't know if they want to install it near the bike rack or on the other side somewhere, but I guess it will be near the entrance. Apparently this was like a pre-COVID thing that they started to pursue, so it's not exactly clear to me, but I guess it was approved like a long time ago, and they're going to put it somewhere near the entrance.
And Commissioner Irwin, is this going to be like an electronic information center where there will be like a touch screen or something
Yeah,
like that?
my understanding it'll be like an electronic kiosk, and you would press the buttons, and they'd have different, like a link to the town website, a link to the town calendars, a link to the library's website, different boards, different information about town, so anyone could just access town information on this kiosk.
Nina, sorry.
Can I just ask can you define EDC, what's that, please?
Economic Development Commission.
Thank you.
I haven't gotten any like dates or further information, or, so I do not know when and if.
Yeah, can I recommend, I can speak. This is Commissioner Tartzinis. I would recommend maybe inviting the representatives. I think it was Gail Demko, and I can't recall the other gentleman's name. But the representatives from the EDC, maybe they can come speak to us about it.
Sure.
Because it, you know, it appears that they've spoken to others, but I think it'd be nice to hear from them directly with regard to the plans. And, you know, one of the things that I'm curious about, is it something that it's tapping into, you know, the library's internet, Wi-Fi, like just, I'd like some more details.
Okay, do you want me to email her and direct her to Christine, or?
I think that's a great idea. Why don't you contact the EDC and invite them? Are we in agreement to invite them to our next meeting so that we can get it straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, what the plans are.
Sure.
And that way we can figure out where to put it on the agenda, or maybe it'll have to be a separate, probably a separate entry. Okay, great questions and observations. Anything else before we move on? Okay. And next, we have community relations. I included Suffield on the Green because I wasn't sure if there were still any loose ends on that. So Bob?
Nothing about Suffield on the Green, but one of the things that was really interesting right along at the same time was the Pirates Night at the library, and the kids loved it. I chased all over the stuff with my granddaughter, and we got eye patches, and we had a good time. I called Amy today and talked to Amy, and she sent me information about upcoming events. On November 6th, there's a presentation called Wicked Strange New England, ghosts, goblins, and all that kind of stuff. It's a little bit late for Halloween, but it sounds interesting. And in looking at that and doing a little bit of research, it dawned on me that there may be a lot of the public that isn't aware of the email that comes out weekly about upcoming events at the library. And it's a wealth of information, a lot of good stuff there. I'm sure that Amy could provide you with a website or get your name, your email address on her mailing list, because I think it's very worthwhile that you get that information, because there is some really good information on a weekly basis. And that's all in community relations.
Amy, did you want to add anything to that, or?
Well, I think it's a guest speaker doing this program on November 6th, and he has like a PBS show and everything. So if anyone is interested in seeing this speaker talk about weird New England stuff, come to the library's website and sign up to go, because it's going to be very cool. Should be fun.
Thank you. Next we have finance. Bob?
Really nothing on finance. We're waiting for the third quarter reports to come out. So I don't have anything from Bank of America or Sky, and I'll forward it to the commission so they have anything.
I just wanted to add that I did receive an email from Brad Belcher with respect to the ACE Advisory Commission on Capital Expenditures. And like Corbin, I've been busy reading policies. But it does talk about, it looks like it's a little bit new this year, that they're asking, the various town commissions to get their documents in by December 1st. And actually, my impression had been that ACE was for much larger endeavors. Is that not correct? That
Yes, it is generally. It's larger capital expenditures, but, sometimes if they're like maintenance pieces of equipment or something like that, they will do,
we're trying to speak.
yeah, sometimes if it's maintenance pieces of equipment or something like that to maintain the facility or something like that, ACE will cover, like a hall scrubber for the schools or something like that. But generally speaking, their stuff is larger capital expenditures.
Okay, but for the atrium, we still are going to ACE. Am I correct in understanding that?
My understanding is that the Board of Selectmen would ask the Finance Committee to support it, and then I'm assuming it would go to the ACE after that, like time around.
Okay.
It's kind of the same process, yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, so for historical, Denise is absent tonight. And then for personnel, Nina. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Just, Denise has reached out to Amy and Wendy, and we're going to attempt to get a meeting going shortly.
Oh, super. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, personnel, that would be,
Nothing to report.
okay. And now we have policy. So I wanted to just start my report by giving some background information. As you may know or may not know, it was in June that the CGA, the Connecticut General Assembly, they passed House Bill 7287 that contains PA 25-168. And this was a 745-page omnibus bill. It's one of those huge bills that basically has a lot of stuff in it. And it was sections 322 and 323 that outlined new requirements for libraries. And it was approximately 15 pages or so that applied to libraries. And this new law required the updating of 4 policies. 1, a collection, development, and maintenance policy. Second, a material review and reconsideration policy. Third, a display policy. And 4th, a program policy. So now I'd like to turn your attention to the bylaws of the Kent Memorial Library. Which is a 3-page document. And on the second page, we have Article 13. So I'm going to read it. Quote, amendments to these rules may be proposed at any regular meeting, but may become effective only after 2/3 vote approving such amendments at a subsequent meeting, end quote. This commission is a 12-member commission. So a simple majority would just be 7, half plus 1. And then a 2/3 majority would require 8 votes to pass. I'd also like to turn your attention to a town ordinance that has governed the Library Commission. It's Chapter 71, Library. It's Section 71-4, Powers and Duties of the Library Commission. And it says, quote, the Library Commission shall have the following powers and duties, A, to establish policies for the operation and use of the library, end quote. There is more to the ordinance, but I'm not going to read it because it doesn't really deal with what we're talking about tonight. So in keeping with honoring the bylaws and honoring the ordinance, since I've been elected to be the chair of the policy subcommittee meeting, I called a meeting of the policy subcommittee meeting on September 23rd. And I'd also like to point out that the timeline for this was very tight. I mean, we have 169 towns in Connecticut. People do go on vacation during the summer, and I believe that's one of the reasons why the Library Commission does not meet in the summer, because it's difficult to have a quorum. I know I was away for quite a bit of July and August. Despina, I believe you were away, Fred was away, and perhaps others. So it really isn't always that simple to just have a meeting at the drop of a hat. But I do want to thank everyone for making an effort to be at these meetings and to partake. And as I said, we had a policy subcommittee meeting on the 23rd. It was going on a 3-hour meeting where we did go through some drafts together. And then we had another meeting the following Tuesday, 1 week later, on September 30th, And again, it was about a 3-hour meeting. I thought that there was a lot of good bipartisan effort, and we agreed to send the drafts to the Connecticut State Library, which we call the CSL for short, Connecticut State Library, for some feedback. And they actually got back to us very quickly. I was a little bit surprised, but we submitted the drafts on October 1st, which was the recommended submission date. So thank you, Amy, for being available after hours to email those to the Connecticut State Library, because our intention is always to try to meet these dates, our very best. The Connecticut State Library, CSL, got back to us on October 3rd, which was a Friday, with a request for a number of revisions, and then they also sent a subsequent email on Monday, October 7th, with additional requests for revisions. Amy began to revise the document to reflect those requests, and the document, the policies that were attached to the agenda were what she had at the time. Since then, between myself looking at it, I had asked Nina as the secretary to be another set of eyes, to check the lists, the request letters with the requested revisions, and it was found that some were missed. I just want to say that I think we've all acknowledged this is very tedious work. So the drafts that we have before us today are the most current, and they were sent out between noon and, 4 o'clock today. So why don't we turn our attention to those drafts? The drafts that were done since we received the CSL's requests are marked as revisions with a watermark that states that they're revisions. So let's turn to the collection, development, and maintenance policy. So I just want to point out that the yellow highlight is verbatim statutory language. The green highlights are the revisions that Amy added per the state library. And the red text, Amy, could you tell me what that stands for?
Yep.
COMM edits?
Yep, those are the ones that Nina sent that she pointed out were either not there or had a question about. And some of the red ones on the others are just things that we might have marked for discussion.
So those were things that were on the checklist, but
Might
just got
have
missed.
been missed, or maybe there was a question about the wording of it.
Okay. Okay, would anyone like to make a comment? Corbin?
This is just kind of general, more background, so everybody knows. Amy sent an initial for us to all talk about together. Christine's updated one included exactly where it was, and just so everybody knows, some of the edits that CSL CSL is requiring is not anything that was added by commission members. It is also things that Amy had in there that they said, hey, let's change the wording on this. So I just wanted to be clear that there is a complete cooperation with Amy's initial draft and what we've done as a commission, and we really have truly been trying to work together. And CSL has had sent us edits and corrections on the director's work and on our work as a commission.
Thank you, Corbin. Other observations? Julie?
Yes.
Julie Bodnar. I would recommend on page 6, where in red it says vested interest, that it just be legitimate concern.
Can you please, it's a little bit hard with the green highlighting to find where you're talking about. Can you give me like a section and the number of lines down?
Sure, it's after the yellow highlighting, the second green line in the beginning, where in red it says vested interest. I would suggest just legitimate concern as more basic language.
So Julie, instead of to challenge any library material, you want, oh, are you saying individuals with a legitimate concern? Okay.
Yes, that's what I'm referring to.
Okay. So yeah, okay.
I was just gonna ask, yeah, this is Dispina Verzinis. I think vested interest, is that the state library suggested wording
Yeah.
pursuant to the statute?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, I think so.
I'm sorry, Jim, you go ahead.
Yeah, it's my understanding that in other places in the correspondence from the state library, vested interest generally is meant to describe citizens or residents of Suffield. The vested interest being that they actually live in the town where the law would be applied to them, and that those are the people that have a legitimate vested interest in the policy. That's my interpretation, but that's how I understand it.
Nina?
So it's my understanding that that language is required on the material review and reconsideration form. Right here, we had it as a Suffield resident, just so I guess it's a little clearer, but if everyone is in agreement that they want to keep the individuals with a vested interest consistent from policy to policy, I think we need to define what that means for anybody who might be reading this policy.
Julie?
I don't know if I'm misunderstanding, but it says on the top of the page, the first page, that the red is for common edits. So is that not supposed to be in red? If that's the language that they are suggesting we use?
Maybe Amy could answer that.
My brain is swimming from so many policies. But anything that I had to change like that was statutory language or was pointed out that needed to be put in there, I just kind of put it in red, and this was the first one that I edited, so I probably changed how I was doing that later on. But vested interest is what the language is that the state library wanted, and so we had Suffield residents in the other policies, but I changed it in the others as well because I thought it was better to have a consistent language with the ending of every policy through each policy than switching the language around. As far as the definition of vested interest goes, I felt that the definition followed at the last sentence of that paragraph under the yellow highlighting and request for consideration. The library limits the consideration of requests to reconsider material displays and programs to individuals residing in the town in which the library is located. I saw that as the definition of vested interest, so I didn't think there was a a need to define it otherwise because it's already there.
I just want to point out in the law that it does say on page 482,
Yeah.
3, they do provide a definition of individual with a vested interest, means any individual residing in the town in which the public library is located, or the town in which the contract library is located at the time a reconsideration form is filed under section E of this section, which I think is what you just read. Similar.
Yeah. I just didn't want to get too redundant.
Anyone else? Fred?
Yeah, first of all, I just wanted to join the chorus, thanking Amy for and Christine and Nina and everybody else that's put all this time and energy into this. It's just an incredible amount of work in a very short time. It does seem that the Connecticut State Library has very specific requirements for what language they do and don't want used. And I'm not sure I always tracked it correctly. 99% of what I looked at looked like it was done exactly the way that they asked. I have one question, and that is on page 6. And it's the excuse me, it's the first bullet point, response that begins responsibility. It's 1, 2, 3 lines down, about in the middle. These sub-collections, which is the language that the state library recommended, I believe, is struck, and the collection is inserted. And I realize how trivial that probably sounds. I'm reluctant to change language that was strongly suggested to us at the United States Library. So maybe I'm missing something, but I did notice that.
Nina?
On the October 3rd email that we received from the Connecticut State Library, this right here, page 2, halfway down, acceptable controversial materials language. And then the next bullet says remove this language as it is highly problematic. So that's confusing to me if they say it's acceptable and then remove the language that it's highly problematic. The language they want us to remove is several sentences of our language we agreed upon for controversial materials. Moving down to the next section, also entitled Acceptable Controversial Materials Language, flipping to page 3, letter B. All of this came, I believe, from a sample policy that they had online. So instead of allowing us to exercise our duty, create policy specific to our library, it seems they want us to copy, paste. I'm getting somewhere with this, bear with me, please. On their state library website, they say, we do not recommend using only the sample policy as written. We expect to see statutory language used, but each library has its own unique community needs, and your policy should reflect that. So they say that, and then they come back at us crossing out entire sections and telling us what we should do instead. I find that problematic. To answer your question directly, Fred, page 3, you're right, it says materials may be reassigned among these sub-collections based on the age appropriateness of the content. But their most recent email of revisions dated October 6th addresses that same sentence. And they say, under controversial materials, last sentence, perhaps change to materials may be reassigned among the collection based on the age appropriateness of the content per professional library standards. So their most recent suggestion, perhaps, they say, perhaps change it, is the word collection, not sub-collection, which is what we had originally, I believe. Based on the age appropriateness of the content, and they wanted to see added per professional library standards.
That's very helpful, thank you.
Sorry, did you want to continue?
Yeah, I just, since we're on that, we're at that point in the policy, you know, in their sample policy online, they didn't have that clarifier per professional library standards. And Connecticut State Library seems to want us to add that clarifier based on the age appropriateness of the content per professional library standards. Amy, could you comment on some of what that means for how would a book be determined to be age appropriate based on professional library standards?
Sure. I'll try to explain this as best I can without being too lengthy about it, but librarians are taught in library school about how to develop and maintain a collection. So when a librarian, if we're talking specifically about children's books, which my assumption is that we are because we're talking about age appropriateness, when a librarian is adding to the children's collection, they are not just willy-nilly deciding on their own what age group a book belongs in or where it belongs in the library. We have a number of professional tools that we use to ascertain what age is appropriate for an item. So I brought actually a few of these tools with me. If any commission member would like to look at them at any time, you know, we have a lot of back copies. I'm happy to show them. So librarians rely on the age recommendations by publishers of the work, professional trade journals, which is what these are. I have School Library Journal here, Kirkus Reviews, and booklets. That's just 3. We have several others at the library. Recommendations of the authors who wrote the book, what their targeted age group is. And on the rare occasion when we can't quite decide where we want to put something in the collection, we might look to the card catalogs and see where other libraries are putting an item. Sometimes you're not sure. It can be on the fence and go either way, so you might look and say, well, where did the majority of libraries put it? But that doesn't happen all that often. So if you look at School Library Journal, each review, and like I said, anyone's happy to borrow these, but it'll list the age groups in it. So it'll say for babies or toddlers. It may list what age, or like in the book reviews here in School Library Journal, it has separate sections. So it has sections for board books, which obviously are for very little ones. It has transitional age books, so those would be kids that are, you know, kind of in between chapter books. If you look at Kirkus, they run it, each journal has it a little bit differently. They decide how they want to determine that. So like in Kirkus, it'll say, I wish I had a dragon with marshmallows. So it says picture books, 3 to 6. So they're recommending that it's ages 3 to 6. So those are the professional library standards that librarians use to determine where a book gets placed in the collection. We're really relying on those other sources and publishers and authors and things like that. And then some of it's nuanced. You know, a librarian tends to know their community, and when we're ordering materials, what that community needs or desires. So there's a little bit of that element to it too, but they're not just deciding, you know, pulling out an age out of a hat and going, this is where I'm going to put it. They are relying on these things. So that is where professional standards come from.
Thank you. Would you say that the standards could be subjective, like, using the same criteria, one librarian may, in one city may put a book in a different section than another librarian would in another city, in the same state, let's just say.
I would say the vast majority of the time, it's fairly clear. And like I said, on those rare occasions when you're not sure, if it's a transitional books are probably the biggest example I can think of, where it's kind of in between age groups, and you might ask your professional colleagues for their opinions or look at the catalog, but in the overwhelming majority of times, librarians are relying on these other sources to determine where a book goes.
So just from, I'm trying to understand the situation. Obviously, we've had some questions about where books belong. Is moving a book from one section to the other based on professional library standards? Is that censorship? Just for some help, I think this would be helpful information. The book Blankets, which is currently in our young adult section. One of the books I showed at one of the last policy subcommittee meetings. There's a book. That book is in our young adult collection, but I searched Bibliomation, and in 13 other libraries across the state, it's placed in the adult section.
For a point of order,
Excuse me, Fred?
it's a point of order. I'm asking to be recognized for a point of order. That's up to you to recognize.
I'm sorry, Nina's going to continue with her presentation.
So 13 of those copies are in adult sections throughout the state. Only 4 are in teen or young adult. So I guess the question is, are those librarians following professionally accepted standards? Or is it subjective? Can librarians use what they know about their communities and about age appropriateness to choose where that book goes? Because to me, it seems like they absolutely can choose where that book goes.
Amy, if you could respond, please.
Yep. I would say that although there is some subjectivity, I guess, like I said, in those rare instances, librarians are capable of also making mistakes. So sometimes one may put in a collection, and librarians don't have time to read every single book that comes in. So we go by our professional journals and resources, but to sit down and look page by page at every single book is impossible. Sometimes a librarian makes a mistake and puts it in a wrong section. Sometimes it could have happened years and years ago, and someone new comes in. You don't always realize it until someone comes up to you and says, hey, I found this in the collection, would you take a look at it? Maybe it doesn't belong there. And then there can be a discussion about it. But generally, like I said, librarians are ordering books and assessing them in the correct age category based on those professional sources. I can't see any librarian looking and saying, okay, I'm going to order this and just stick it in this area because I think it should be in there. Like, there are professional ethics that we're all taught on how to develop and maintain a collection, and that's what we go by.
Thank you, Amy.
Sure.
I just want to say that I was remiss in not allowing Fred's point of order. I don't claim to be an expert at all of the tenets of Robert's Rules of Order. So, Fred, if you would like to say your piece, please.
Thank you. It's maybe a moot point now, but the point of order I was going to raise is that I'm not sure that this line of discussion is germane to what we're trying to do here.
I'll then ask Nina, can you summarize your point then, please?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, but so. Sorry, I'm looking at Robert's rules, and so when a point of order is raised, you ask the state the point of order. No second is necessary. No vote is taken. Instead, the chair rules on the point of order. Chair rules that the point of order is well taken, or the chair rules that the point of order is not well taken. So my reading of this, people who have more experience with this, feel free to correct me, is that you as the chair, either recognize that, say it's well taken, which would mean in this case that we wouldn't continue this line of discussion, or you can say it's not well taken, which means it goes on.
Well, I'd like to hear from the commission. Do the other commissioners feel that this has been educational and informative with respect to our library and this journey that we're all on together? Bob?
I have mixed emotions about the journey. We have started off in good faith with a set of policies that we tried to craft, wordsmith, and come up with something that was acceptable to the community. And we've had a document jammed into our meeting. We have a document that the state says, this is what you shall put into your books. This is the wording that you will use, and there's appears to be no discussion, because if you are, they're going to cut off our funding and throw us in jail. So I think we take the state at their word, and this is what they want us to present for a vote at our next meeting. So we can discuss it more and give people the idea of how we got to this point. But really, it's the state told us back in June or July, whenever the time was, that this is the way it's going to be, and they've changed the goalpost several times, and said, well, we were only kidding about that. Now we want you to say this, and so we are here with red and green and blue highlighted documents that I can't follow. I have no idea what's been redacted and what's been cut and what's been changed to green and blue, but we have a finalized version that Amy put together and got out today in black print that we will vote on next week, or the 28th, or whenever the date is. So, I mean, I think we're beyond opinions and beyond wordsmithing, crossing T's and dotting I's, because the state has told us what's acceptable. That's my opinion.
Christina?
Thank you. I agree with Bob. I think we're beyond the point of wordsmithing and nitpicking. I do want to recite just a very short excerpt from our town attorney's email to the commission stating, and this is exactly his wording, I do not see much in the way of wiggle room here in the changes CSL is asking to be made. My advice is that the only viable option to be in compliance is to follow the directives by CSL, submit a policy that meets their approval so that we do not expose the town, library staff, or the KMLC to any liability under the law. If at a later date the requirements change, either statutorily, interpretation-wise, or via court order, the policies can be revisited. But the potential for exposure here far outweighs the principle. And this is Attorney Donnelly stating, as I stated last time before the KMLC, I cannot think of another statute outside possibly the policing changes made in 2021 where the legislature has exposed its towns to so much potential liability by way of non-compliance with seemingly arbitrary and capricious deadlines. As distasteful as this may be, I cannot in good faith recommend that in the short term, KMLC does anything other than to comply with the law as it is being interpreted. And in that regard, OPM, the Office of Policy Management, has designated the Connecticut State Library with implementing and reviewing these policies submitted by each and every town. It's my understanding that 158 of the 169 towns have already submitted compliant policies. I know things take time. I was at the last two policy subcommittee meetings. We collectively spent 8 hours. I appreciate everyone's viewpoints and I understand everyone's concerns, but I think at this point we have some well-drafted revisions that I'm in favor of pushing forward. So as much as I adore, spending time with all of you, I don't think we need to sit here and rework this. I think there's some really good policies that appear to be compliant to me, and I'm even ready to, request that we move forward without any additional revisions. Thank you.
Nina?
I understand what Bob and Despina are saying, appreciate that for sure. But I think I have a major concern, which there are some spots where CSL has required us to remove statutory language. What are we supposed to do with that? It seems to me like the CSL is perhaps overstepping their legal authority, requiring more of us what the statutory language requires, what the Public Act requires. And then there are spots where they want us to strike out statutory language. For example, on page 2, at the bottom, under selection criteria. In order to curate, review, and maintain a high-quality collection based on professionally accepted standards, which shall include but not be limited to. They want us to remove which shall include but not be limited to, even though that's statutory language. Materials relevance, physical condition, etc.
Jim?
One of the things that in the letter from the Connecticut State Library, just because the language is in the statute, that doesn't mean that you can move the words around or basically it should not be paraphrased to add any additional or alternative language which will contradict the intent of the statute. And I'm afraid that some of the language that has been moved to different places in the procedures has done just that. And so I agree with Despina that we should in fact move this forward, and I think that there are areas where they will still find fault with us, and that's very frustrating because I think that we do have, as a town, we've got really high exposure to a bad outcome here if we don't just get off the dime and do this job.
Well, I am noticing here that in the law on page 484, it does say verbatim. It starts with establish a procedure for a librarian to continually review library and other educational material within a public library using, and this is where it picks up in our document, professionally accepted standards, which shall include but not be limited to the material's relevance, the physical condition of the material, the availability of duplicates. And if I understand correctly, Amy, or the commission, has been advised to actually remove what shall include but not to be limited to. And, you know, that doesn't make sense to me either. Fred, did you have your hand up, or who did?
Yes, I did. Before we go too much further with this, I understand and appreciate people's frustration with what's come down from the Connecticut State Library. However, I would point out that in the letter that you sent to us that came from the town attorney, he is saying that our only recourse, if we feel that way, where is it? The only way to challenge this is to do so in court by seeking declaratory judgment rulings would require the town to bring an action against the state. I'm not going to finish that sentence. I hope you've all read it. So that's why I just keep wondering how productive this line of conversation is, because I don't think we have a choice, as odious as that may be to many of the people around the table.
I'm sorry, Corbin, you did have your hand up. I should have gotten to you. I apologize.
That's okay. I went up at the same time as Fred. What if we did something, because I agree, this is the law, these are the rules we have to follow, and none of us are debating that. I do appreciate learning how these collections are developed, what Nina brought up. In this particular case, how do we keep ourselves from being exposed in that the law says this language, which we have in there, and the Connecticut State Library is asking us to strike the legal language. So fine, we'll listen to the Connecticut State Library, but maybe we just need to log somewhere in our minutes that Connecticut State Library asked us to take this out, even though this is the legal language that was in there, and we felt we had to. How do we keep ourselves protected? Because on one hand, we're trying to follow the House bill, and then they're telling us, no, but take out those words of the House bill. And I think that's your concern of which one do we listen to. So maybe we just make a list of it. CSL is holding us to their corrections, follow their corrections, but I don't see anything wrong with keeping a whole separate list if anything were to happen in the future that we can say, this is why we did it, and have a full explanation.
Bob?
We sat here for 4+ hours a couple weeks ago, and we hashed this out, and we came up with, it was one of the best meetings I've attended. I mean, well received, well thought out, and a good meeting. And the next day on Facebook, one of the commissioners said, I could have told you it was not going to pass. And I mean, we knew going out that we had difficulties, but we all agreed as a commission that it was the best we could do. And then to have the commissioner, the same commissioner tonight say, I can see a lot of faults with this. I think we should go to the commissioner and say, rather than close it off the way it's been suggested, we have that commissioner at least tell us the sites that he sees that are potholes for us, that are the state's going to come back and say, you're going to blow this up and you're still going to face lawsuits. So with that being said, if we could call on that commissioner to enlighten us.
Would that commissioner like to volunteer?
Certainly. That commissioner would be happy to volunteer. I will be totally upfront with you. There is only one area where I see a genuine problem, and it has to do with, let me find the exact wording that.
Once you do, if you could please give us a page reference, a section reference, and line.
I have enough copies of that here. Okay. I believe this is no, that's the revision. Let me go back to, okay. This would be the revision that you sent out at 2 something this afternoon. It is on revision by Library Director per CSL 10-14-25, page 2.
Is this the one that is marked with yellow highlight and green highlight?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Okay, what I'm going to do.
Are we still in collection development?
Yes, we are.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I'm on the right policy.
Oh, no, no, we are not. I apologize. We are in material review and reconsideration policy. Thank you.
Okay, so let's give everyone a moment to find that one. We're all looking to the material review and reconsideration policy.
Yes. Yes, that is correct. We are at the appeal process, 2/3 of the way down the page.
Page number, please? Page 2.
Page 2 of the reconsideration policy.
Thank you.
Okay, the appeal process is based on, as it has been paraphrased from in this document, the House Bill 7287 and the reference of that appeal process is on page 486 and 10, and that the entire process of the appeal process is outlined in that procedure, which begins with the individual who has requested the reconsideration form to appeal in writing the library director's decision to the board or other governing body for the library. The board, after evaluating the challenged material under the collection development and maintenance policy, shall A, consult with, and we pick that up at that point, that everything above the letter A is paraphrased. Now, as I pointed out earlier, anything that we paraphrase, in general, the Connecticut State Library doesn't buy that. That was what got us into trouble on the earlier submission. And the paraphrasing of the law and saying that Section D, which is showed as a paraphrase in the second sentence of the appeal process, Section D is in fact, if you turn the page to page 3, Section D is we have to provide any final decision that is contrary to the decision of the library director. That is what is paraphrased in the statement, the final authority regarding the removal or retention of a challenged library material ultimately resides with the Library Commission.
Where are you reading that from, please?
I'm reading that from the second sentence underneath the appeal process. And it seems to me to be quite a reach between they provide the final decision as opposed to the final authority regarding removal or retention is material ultimately resides with the Library Commission, and as the last step in the process is what they are citing, but they are citing it prior to the beginning of the process. The first step that we are supposed to take by the statute is the library commission, after evaluating, not shall, but after evaluating the challenged material under the collection development and maintenance policy, shall then go through a very well-defined series of steps, A, B, C, D, to execute our duty. And then, if there is a final decision that is in contrary to the decision of the library director, then we exercise that decision-making process, not the authority to define the process from the beginning.
Can
And-
someone please refresh me? Thank you, Jim. There was a reason that we had discussed putting that more towards the beginning. Does anybody remember? Because like Amy pointed out, all of our brains are turning into mashed potatoes. Nina? Despina?
Yeah, I just recall disagreeing with that statement, that the commission, I mean, I would like that to be the commission's authority, but I didn't read the statute as conferring final authority to the commission. Because realistically, the final authority could be the library director, and the commission, in consultation with the other entities that are outlined in the statute, could agree with the library director. So hence that final authority, that final decision may come from the library director themselves. So I recall last meeting, I didn't think it was appropriate to paraphrase, but I also recall that, again, there were others that didn't agree with me, and then decided to keep that language in there.
Nina?
I understand the concern, and I do recall debating on where we should put that statement, whether it would be before the A, B, C, or D, or after. I guess I hesitate to do anything with this because the CSL has not required us to make any changes here. So should we make additional changes that have already been, cleared, so to speak, or are they gonna come back to us?
And that is exactly my point.
Excuse me,
What?
I'm going to make a statement.
Or go ahead.
I'd like to add that, okay, we've all been in instances where we've had a situation where we've gone to appeal to authority. And you go to appeal to the first line of authority, and then, oh, you know what, I'm not happy with the decision, I'm going to go talk to the manager. The sales clerk and the manager. I'm just trying to give a simple explanation, example. Are we all in agreement that we're reading the law that says that it goes to the library director, but then if the resident feels that the library director is remiss in her decision, that they do have the ability to go to the commission? Is that not correct per the statute? Does anyone read it differently than that? So to say that the commission is the final authority, that just makes sense. It's just like, at the store, the sales clerk isn't the final authority, it's the manager. And I would equate, I hate to, it's kind of a simple, but you get my point, I think. Jim?
Yes, the manager has a role to play there. And then there's the owner of the company, and there's the people up above him. And there is a step. First, they consult with the library director. If that person comes and complains about the decision that Amy has made, they come to us, and we consult with Amy and say, why did you decide that? We just explore that. When she explains why she made her decision, from that point on, as a commission, we have to consult with the state librarian or the state librarian's designee, a representative of the cooperating library service unit as defined in section 11-9E.
Excuse me, Jim, we have been through that, and we've included all that in the policy. It's outlined and it's verbatim from the statute.
That's right. And by the time you get to the end of that process, at that point, you provide any final decision that is contrary to the decision of the library director. That is what we do. But we go through those steps first before we have that authority to act, is my point.
Why are we making changes to things that the Connecticut State Library has not asked us to change? It's like we already have enough work to do. And
For one reason. I believe I'm responding to what Bob asked me to do. I believe that that is enough for them to kick it back to us again. I'm not advocating for this as much as I'm saying I don't agree with Derek Donnelly all that often, but I will tell you, I agree with him 100% on his opinion on this matter because we are
I know,
at
but
risk.
Jim, we're talking about what you're proposing, and you seem to have more information than the rest of us. Nina, you had something to say.
I mean, what are we gonna do here? Are we gonna go through and discuss various sentences that we wanna see changed because CSL might kick it back to us again? Attorney Donnelly recommended, submitting these policies with little change, but we could be here all night, rehashing these things. I mean, what exactly are you proposing? That we remove that whole sentence and then resubmit?
I'm not proposing anything. I'm answering Bob's question. He asked me to justify why I believe that this may not get passed, and that's why I believe it.
So
I'm willing to send, like I said, once before, and I've had it thrown back at me, I can live with this. I mean, if you guys want to go ahead and move it forward, and if I'm right about it being rejected, golly, I was right, and if I'm wrong, golly, I was wrong. But the bottom line is that I think that there is an area for the question
Jim.
to be raised.
Corbin?
Can I suggest that what are we using to make our corrections? We got this checklist from CSL. Can we just go through each policy and stick to this yellow and talk about that yellow and then resubmit it so we're not here all night?
Nina?
if I could answer that, that's exactly what Amy did, that's exactly what I did. So we have gone through those checklists already, and these marks reflect that. So I think that would be time consuming.
Also, it would seem prudent if we have a checklist, a new list, let me not use the word checklist, if we have a new list of requested revisions from the CSL, it just seems prudent that we should stick to those revisions. That's what we've been asked to do. Michael?
Mike Alexopoulos. So I have to be honest with you, I have the luxury of not having attended either of those meetings because I believe in the subcommittee process as I shared with Mr. Parks. So I appreciate all the incredible effort that you guys made. I want you to know that. So I'm going to just tell you what I've heard, and I don't want to belabor it, just want to make it quick. Perhaps, although that's a new word tonight, perhaps has a wonderful meaning. So I'm going to just say this, that I hear what you're saying, I hear what everyone's saying. Clearly, even the CSL is not sure what they want us to follow because we see in some cases where they're actually asking us to eradicate or get rid of language that they're saying has to be statutorily included. So that while I think there's confusion on everyone's part, I think what you have in front of you, why would we change anything that they've asked you to, they've given you revisions, you've done them, you've done the work. I think we should go with what you have. Okay, number one. Number two, and I don't mean to restate things that everyone else has said. I just want you to know that someone else is hearing it now, very differently than a lot of people who've been very vested in all the effort you guys made. Corbin, I don't think we need to because we have everything well documented as to what changes they requested. I don't see us, well, I agree with Derek Donnelly. I understand what he's saying. I think there's also some misstatement in that because, like I said, we already have examples where they are disagreeing with themselves, they being the CSL. So I think we go with what we have. I can't imagine us getting in trouble for approving something that they've reviewed, given us revisions, we've made them, move on with it. Let's meet the deadline, which I really believe is the ultimate thing here. That's the thing we could get in trouble for, is not meeting a deadline. You guys have made a real effort to meet a deadline. Let's meet the deadline. We're not going to be the only ones that are going to have forgotten a period someplace or put a word someplace else, like they left subcommittee in by mistake. Oh, that's what the language said, but they're asking us to get rid of it, whatever the case may be. So I'm not sure I'm being clear. Let me cut to the chase. I think we should approve what we got here because we have Amy and Nina and the commission subcommittee. We've done a lot of work here to present a document that I think is in a position to be submitted.
So I wanted to ask Amy, because we have two sets of policies here. We have the marked up copy that shows what the CSL wanted stricken, and then we have highlighted in green the language they wanted added. Does that copy include any additional language that wasn't requested by the CSL? Because I'm trying to understand, because my mind is you know, we're all mashed potatoes, like I said.
Do you mean in the edits?
Well, in the black letter only copy,
Yep.
is that,
That language is taken exactly from the edited copies, just all the highlighting gone, any citations gone. It's basically just a cleaned up version of the edited one. There's no additional language or anything like that.
so for example, the one that was in question, let me see if I can find it. I think page 5, appendix, oh, I'm sorry, no, that's not the right one. It's hard to read the blue, I'm sorry, the green highlight.
Material review policy?
Oh, I'm in the wrong policy, I'm sorry. Let me get back to collection development. It was page 6. It was the bullet point starting with responsibility for the reading. And so if we go 1, 2, 3, 4 lines down, these sub-collections was struck, and then there's the collection in red. So how does our black letter copy read?
The library maintains several age-appropriate collections for children and teens. Materials may be reassigned among the collection based on the age-appropriateness of the content per professional library standards. When I was making the black text copies, I pulled up the edited copies on the computer and then just copy-pasted everything in a new document and took all the highlighting and things out so that I tried to make sure that I had the right language, which reminds me, I should point out, because we're all mashed potatoes at this point, that on page 1 of this collection development and maintenance policy, under intellectual freedom and censorship statement, you'll see that I forgot to take out the struck through word statement, which will need to come out of there if these are getting submitted because they did not want that in there.
Okay, so back though, just to deal with one piece of text at a time.
Of course.
So back on page 6, but hold that thought on the other one, please.
Yep.
Yes, we're on the collection development and maintenance policy, page 6. The text that's in the actual law, what does it say? Can anyone provide that?
This is Commissioner Kendrick. There's That's not statutory language.
Okay. Thank you.
So just to clarify, it appears that on the black and white revision on that copy, it does accurately reflect that statement.
Okay, thank you. And then also the fourth line down where it says per professional library standards, is that in the black letter only?
Yes.
Okay. So we're not required to have it either way, correct?
I could speak on that. The most recent letter from the Connecticut State Library, October 6th. This is the language they had.
And what, I'm sorry.
That Amy has in her black and white version.
Okay.
So it reflects the strikeouts, meaning those were taken out, and it includes the red language.
But it was specifically requested.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
And now you wanted to turn us to page 1.
Yeah. So the heading for intellectual freedom and censorship, we had statements struck from it. That's what the state library wanted, and I just missed that one. So it's still in there as a strikeout. It just will need to come out.
Okay, if everyone could take their black text only, under the collection development. Now this should be in here. Found up, no, over here. Are there other places in this policy that are observations about any inconsistency with what the CSL is asking? Nina?
I just want to know on the record that page 3 of the collection development and maintenance policy, the CSL is requiring that we strike out the phrase, "The library shall not acquire any material that appeals solely to the prurient interest." This is something that we have in our current policy at KML. Their reasoning is that it's, may be construed as contrary to statutory language, it's highly subjective and vague, and is not rooted in any recognized collection development methodology. Again, we have it in our current policy, and it appears to me that this does go beyond what CSL can require of us. above and beyond what's required by statutory language.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any other observations about this policy before we go on to the next policy? Okay, let's move on to the material review and reconsideration policy. I just wanted to ask you, Amy, on the first page, in the yellow text, the second bullet point down, starting with library materials.
Yep.
The strike for legitimate pedagogical purposes, was that not in the original law?
Yes, there is language in the law.
Okay. You're asking us now to strike that?
Now we need to paraphrase.
What?
Now we have to paraphrase.
Liz, go ahead.
I apologize. I believe that particular line regarding pedagogical standards is in reference to school libraries. I could be wrong, but I believe that that section was in reference to school libraries.
Okay, let's turn to the law. I'm sorry, Nina, did you want to read?
Yeah, I have it right here.
Page number, please.
Page 45. So this is still within public library requirements,
Oh, I might
section
have it wrong.
322, I believe, yeah, 322. And it has that language, require that library materials, displays, and programs shall only be excluded for legitimate pedagogical purposes or for professionally accepted standards of collection maintenance practices. So again, here's another place where the CSL is requiring us to remove statutory language.
Amy?
I don't know if this will give any clarity or help, but I had a question about some of the language being removed from the statutory language regarding library staff curating and creating displays. And I spoke with town council today, and he pretty much indicated the same thing he said in his email, that the state library is tasked with interpreting and implementing this law, and if the state library tells us that something needs to be omitted or added in, then it needs to be done. So, because I was not sure about having, because so much of our library staff, not degreed librarians, does programming and displays, I was like, well, if we have to take it out, you know, is that a problem? And he said, you have to take it out if that's what they tell you. They're charged with implementing this law and interpreting this law. So I don't know if that gives any clarity or help, but that was the conversation I had with them.
Well, I do want to thank both Jim and Amy for helping me to make the point that the state library is essentially saying, you must have this exact language, that this is all coming very top down. And I believe that this is a violation of my First Amendment free speech, that it's compelled speech. It violates the First Amendment. It violates the Connecticut State Constitution, Article 1st, Section 4, 5, and 14. It's essentially compelled speech to accept every single, sentence crafted so exact when it says in the statute itself, this is on page 483, that it's under 4B, 3, towards the end of the paragraph. In developing, quote, in developing each such policy, the board shall have control over the content of each such policy, provided such policies are in accordance with the provisions of this section. This is just driving me, a little crazy, stand with your hands on your head, stand with your hands up in the air, sit down, sit up. I just want to say, give me a break. I mean, we've had a checklist we've had a list of revisions, requested revisions for the October 3rd and 7th letter that Michael pointed out. We have been keeping track of the revisions. It seems to me that we just need to incorporate the revisions they have asked us to incorporate. However, taking out the language that's in the law, it just doesn't make sense to me. Does anyone else see this from my point of view? Corbin?
I do, and I think we all do. And I want to go home too.
Who was up first?
Probably Jim.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Was it me?
Yeah.
Okay.
They've heard enough from me, you can go ahead.
No, I just want to echo, I understand your frustration, Christine, because being an attorney, I tend to, if the statute says this, let's do this. But I do understand the town attorney's directives to us in stating that, Connecticut State Library is tasked with reviewing these. I think from a liability perspective and good faith efforts for our commission, that as long as we spent hours reviewing, drafting, revising these policies, trying to comply with the statute, we have in good faith submitted policies for consideration by the CSL, and now are implementing the requested revisions. I think from that standpoint, we've done what we need to do, both from a policy subcommittee level and then now as a full commission. So I'm happy with the black letter policies, absent that one strikeout that was still left in there. I think it's clear it was a strikeout. But I'm happy with this, and I understand everybody's tired now. I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone really wants to make any other revisions right now, I don't think we're in a position to make revisions. I think everything appears to be, we've complied with both CSL directives from October 3rd and October 6th or 7th. Correct me on that exact date. But I think we have some good policies now. In the future, if some other town decides, I don't think it's our town that's going to do it, and I say this just from that indication from that email from the town attorney, I don't think it's our town that's going to be the one challenging this in court, but if it is and it joins other towns, so be it. Maybe there will be a declaratory action in some other future interpretation. But I think right now, let's get these submitted, let's get it done, and I understand your frustration.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to make a comment?
Yeah, the only thing that I want to say is that I can understand your level of frustration and how difficult a process this is. It's become incredibly complex, but the reality of it for me is at this particular point in time, this is just a terrible time to pick a fight with the state over this issue. We're on some really tough deadline penalties if we can get this thing through and approved as it is, we can fix the things that you guys want to fix. Down the road, that is easily doable if, in fact, we decide that we've headed in a wrong direction someplace and we need to adjust it. But what we need to do right now is just to protect the town and ourselves from liability, we need to approve what we've got. I agree with Michael.
Thank you, Jim. Fred, did you have something to say?
Give me one, go on, and once I get this clear, I'll raise my hand again.
I do want to say before Corbin speaks that reviewing this, yes, it is tedious, but remember, this is 4 policies that we have been asked to revise. And my efforts as far as chair have been to try to see if there is a possibility to get enough people to a comfort level, because there still is a very real danger that enough people are not comfortable. That's why I made a point of outlining that we're a 12-member commission and that a proposed amendment needs 8 votes to pass. And we're not voting on that tonight. We would just be making a motion to propose the amendments, and then they would be voted on at a subsequent meeting. So I just want to state that. Corbin?
In this checklist that they gave us for the review reconsideration policy, how did we fix it? Because these black lines came in over email while I was driving people to places today. How did we fix the no on how the appeal is to be directed? Because their no and their fix requires the town to start a whole new process for communication, which is...
I struck whatever language didn't comply and then just inserted what language they told me in most cases.
Can you show me where it is? Sorry.
Can I borrow your,
Yeah.
where that is? This is the checklist. Sorry, I look up my little phone. So on the appeal, I struck anything that was not in compliance with what they said, that the appeal should be directed to the entire board rather than the commission's chair. So I struck any mention of submitting the appeal to the chair and just left the other part so that it was following the language that they were saying.
But how does the public contact the commission unless they come to a meeting? Because on our town website, there's only an email for the chair.
I think it would probably be prudent to have a general commission email box that those things could come to going forward if that is what the policy is. Like have a general commission email address so that's not specifically going.
So like chair of whatever.
Like
so we gotta
KML commission at SuffieldCT.gov or something like that, just like a generic address.
It's just something we need to put on our agendas to figure out and do, because that's a whole new process for
Yeah.
how we operate and function as a commission.
Yep. Yep.
I have one comment, and that is that generally speaking, under Robert's rules, if there was such a generic email address, it would be the job of our secretary to administrate that and be sure that any emails that came to that address would in fact be distributed to the rest of the commission. I think that's how most of the rest of the commissions and boards in town operate, that have a secretary as we do.
Thank you, Jim. Nina?
So, we spent quite a bit of time at the previous policy subcommittee meetings having a discussion about librarians versus library staff, et cetera. Amy had concerns about, correct me if I'm wrong, but, sometimes it's the library staff that curates the displays or for the programs. The way that CSL is requiring the language to be in the most current revision is that it's only librarians' responsibility, or librarians are the ones to curate programs and displays, which I believe is inconsistent with, again, statutory language which allows for other staff members. So this isn't, we need to approve policies, absolutely, in line with statutory language, but this is going to directly affect, you know, Amy's workload, other staff members' workload. Don LaValle from the Connecticut State Library, after our policies were rejected, sent us an example of a policy that was passed by Wallingford. And they have language about curating, you know, the programs. The director delegates the authority for the program management to department heads who oversee the responsibility to staff. Then they have a statement about the librarians are professionally trained. But as we have our policy now, it doesn't really allow Amy to delegate that responsibility to library staff. And I think that's a problem. I think there's language about that in the program policy and in the display policy. So it's CSL's requirements are directly affecting what Amy's allowed to do in her position, even though other libraries, they've approved that the department, the director can delegate some of that authority. So, I mean, we could fix it down the road, but again, there's just another glaring inconsistency.
Could we try to match the Wallingford policy since CSL sent that to us as an example? Is it fair to assume that that would be approved for our library since it was approved for another library?
I'm thinking they won't approve it because they specifically said we needed to strike or staff from our language. So I did.
Why would they send it to us then?
That's what I mean, it's very confusing. The law says one thing, they approve it, the law says one thing, they approve another library's, but then ours has that same language and we're not approved. It is very confusing, and them not approving it then puts more work on our 3 librarians, are the only ones who can curate this stuff now. It doesn't make sense. Maybe we can question them, maybe it was an oversight on their part, and I know we have the deadline.
I mean, it just seems that we're going, you know, back and forth, like, is this a game? I mean, you know, do this, then do this, oh no, now you do this. Fred?
Can I suggest, with all due respect to people's frustrations, that we limit our discussion? And if there is something here that feels so odious to people that you wish to submit a policy that is contrary to what we've been asked to submit, then let's focus on that. Otherwise, I get it, but we keep going over the same territory. All the ways in which this is frustrating, all the ways in which it's contradictory, and I don't mean to dismiss that. I just think at past a certain point, it's not productive.
Okay, is there anything that, as far as an edit for any of the policies, that you feel needs to be addressed? And then we'll try to work towards a motion.
So I guess for me, if I don't think it's right that our 3 librarians have extra work. We can, since we can adjust stuff later, although CSL will still periodically check and we'll still have to approve it. So I'm fine if we send it like this now, they approve it. But I do think in the very near future, even if it's not right now, and we can take the Wallingford example, we should ask permission from CSL if we can change our policy to match what they've approved for another policy, because I don't think it's right or fair that one librarian has one set of rules, but in a different location, that same librarian has a different set of rules. So I'm fine if we just pass what's here tonight, and then after it's all approved, early in next year, try to get it rewritten so that our librarians' time is freed up.
Anyone else? Bob, did you want to say something? Okay, do you want to have a bathroom break for a few minutes? It's 9:30. Okay, well, I have to use the restroom. So we're going to adjourn temporarily to use the restrooms.
I go down too, and then I'm like, well, I go to George, running around, and he's just trying to use all the warm, and, later, I said, I just kind of looked at good eyes. No, it's okay, no, I got music stuff that, no. So just have a cool. George is looking like he's like. She's like, I'm big glasses. The beauty of children. That's hilarious. That's funny. That's the, that, this is my, how that works.
That's the culprit there.
Well, yeah, like you next time.
If I could have everyone's attention, it's 9:34. So we've had going on 10 minutes for people to use the restrooms and kind of stretch their legs. So I'd like to come back from the recess and ask again if anyone has an observation, something that they feel needs to be addressed before we can make a motion to propose the policies as amendments. Nina?
I just want to make sure we don't miss anything. In the display policy, page 3, middle of the page, responsibility, all that's been stricken. On the Connecticut and CSL email from October 3rd, bottom of page 3, we were instructed to remove that whole section. So that, we did strike that out. But going on to page 4, it says, see recommended controversial materials language section under collection development. See recommended language. So we did remove that paragraph as CSL instructed, but we haven't put any language there in place of that. Do we need to do that? They say see recommended controversial materials language under collection development. So I don't know
I'm
if
sorry,
that's,
Nina, where are you? I understand the document you're referencing, but I'm not moving as fast as you are.
so from the email they sent us on October 3rd,
This one?
yeah, I wrote page numbers on it, so it's page number 3.
Got it, I'm there.
At the bottom of the page, the last bullet. So we removed that language as they instructed. But if you see the very last word of the page, going on to the next page, see recommended controversial materials language section under collection development.
Thank you.
I guess I'm wondering if they're going to be looking for some of that language here. I don't believe that a responsibility section is required for the checklist. But we've removed what they requested to remove. It's just a little unclear if we need to add language.
Amy, could you comment on that observation?
I suppose it's possible. We could take the 4 bullet points from controversial materials and just add it in that last section for material review and reconsideration policy, but
Do you mean taking it from collection development policy? That's where they...
yeah, if they're referring to the part that's in there, we could take those 4 bullet points and add them in. Just from preliminarily looking at it.
So it-
And those 4
it
bullets
starts on the
apply
page
to
before.
materials
Yeah, that's why
specifically.
it's just up at the top.
When I did that last section, I just tried to make them consistent across policies, because I thought if it was okay language for one policy for the reconsideration, that it would be okay for the others. I hope I'm on the right section at this point. Under material, are we under material review and reconsideration policy of the display policy, correct? All right, so I'm in.
Oh, wait.
Together.
We're on the display policy.
Yep.
Page 3, responsibility. It's like a little less than halfway down the
Oh,
page,
yeah.
responsibility.
So if that was struck, they wanted that part struck, so.
Which we did. I'm just wondering, it almost sounds like they want to see alternate language in there.
They didn't suggest any alternate language specifically, so I'm not sure.
Jeff?
I would assume that if they didn't suggest any alternate language, they just want that language out of there.
Yeah. That was my working assumption when I just struck it and didn't ask any further questions. Because they've been pretty explicit in what they want in there, so.
They've been pretty specific.
Yeah, so I would
Yeah.
think that they would have suggested what language they want in there and to replace it.
Thank you, Amy.
Sure.
Anyone else? Corbin?
This is just a statement and observation, it's not to fix anything. They had asked us in the checklist to remove the language in support of intellectual freedom and First Amendment rights of residents. So we did strike, we removed the language. In other places, we had to include the ALA Bill of Rights, statements of beliefs. I went and I printed off the ALA Freedom to View statement. And I just want you guys all to know that it says, the freedom to view, along with the freedom to speak, to hear, and to read, is protected by the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. In a free society, there is no place for censorship of any medium of expression. So I just want it in the minutes that we're supposed to let the ALA guidelines guide us. Even though the ALA is allowed to refer to the First Amendment, our policies are not.
Thank you. Other comments? Okay, why don't we discuss how we'd like to craft our motion before we actually have someone propose it?
I drafted something during our break, and I'm happy to share it.
Okay, why don't you read it, please?
Whether it's me making it or someone else, but I would propose a motion to amend the collection, reconsideration, display, and program policies as presented in the drafts entitled REV Revision 10-14-25 by Library Director per CSL to be approved by the commission at a subsequent meeting.
So I just want to ask, you're referring to the black letter only edition?
That is correct.
Okay, so is there any way that you can reference that in the motion so that
Yep.
it's understood?
Yeah, so I could say motion to amend the collection, reconsideration, display, and program policies as presented in the black letter revisions dated 10-14-25 by Library Director per CSL to be approved by the Kmlc at a subsequent meeting.
Despina, my copies say 10-14-24 at the bottom.
Yeah, I think we need to just confirm it as 10-14-25.
Yeah, just make sure that we.
If everybody can just edit that, or if that can be edited before we present it. It's just, it appears to be a typo.
Well, I know that I've made quite a few because my eyes are getting older, and even with readers. Just let me take a quick look at something, please. Is there anything you want to put in the motion to address the typo for the 24 that should be a 25? To just make sure we've identified the correct document.
Just while we're at it, do we also need to do the website policy?
Let's do that separate.
You want it separate?
Yeah,
from
let's
the
just do
CSL
that separate.
Yeah, we can address it as, drafted as 10-14-24, which should be 10-14-25. That's, I think we can address it in the motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you want to just, can you reread your motion if you don't mind?
Sure. Motion to amend the collection, reconsideration, display, and program policies as presented in the black letter revisions dated 10-14-24, which should be amended to 10-14-25 by Library Director per CSL to be approved by KMLC at a subsequent meeting.
We also want to add maybe the official policies of the KMLC so that it's clear that.
Sure. I mean, yeah, whatever the title of our full, the KMLC library policy, Kent Memorial Library Policies. Motion to amend the Kent Memorial. All right, motion to amend the following Kent Memorial Library policies, including collection, reconsideration, display, and program policies as presented in the black letter revisions dated 10-14-24, which should be revised to 10-14-25 by Library Director per CSL to be approved by KMLC at a subsequent meeting. Is that the third try?
Yeah,
Like third
yeah,
try is a
I
charm?
just pulled out the policies.
Okay.
Kent Memorial Library Policies is the title, the official title of the document. Any other requests? Amy?
Do we need to mention that statement, that word that was struck out of the, do we need to mention that at all in there? All right, I didn't think so, but I thought I'd ask since it, I was gonna say.
It's struck out.
Struck, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that we're all in agreement that that was supposed to be struck out. So Despina, with your legal expertise, if you say that we're good. Okay, who would like to, whose hand is going to go up first for the honor of seconding this? A second for the motion?
I'm willing to take one of those shots. You go with whatever one you want to give me.
Okay, Michael is going to second it. Okay, so all those in favor of the motion? Okay, it's unanimous. And Despina, may I ask you to, is it possible for you to pass that down for Nina to copy for
Sure,
the
I'm
minutes?
gonna write it better. Yeah, I'll write it a little clearer.
Okay, that would be much appreciated. Okay, now we are going to turn our attention to the website policy. And I'm not sure, it was attached to the agenda. Do people need copies? Because I did bring a few. Okay, so I'm gonna, all right, there's 2 copies for that end, and there's, well, you and I could share 2. Or maybe you need it. Here's another one. This is verbatim from our existing policy.
Are we looking to renumber this or?
So our existing collection development policy on page 12 has embedded within it a website policy. So this document just takes that language out verbatim. Are we all good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, who would like to make a motion to propose this as an amendment?
I'm not sure what we're doing. We're taking this out of the existing policy?
Yes, and it will be a standalone policy because the existing collection development policy will soon be null and void, most likely. So we need a website policy.
I move we create a new standalone policy regarding website policy to be included in the policy manual of the KMLC.
Would anyone like to amend it in any way or add anything to that? Julie?
No, I was just gonna say I second.
Oh, Jim, she beat you. Julie beat you. Despina, you didn't see anything that needed to be added, did you?
Yeah.
No, I think that was worded well.
I think we did say that we wanted to make it page 18.
Or I think section, was it section 12? Does that sound right? Is it a certain?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
I see
section
that.
12. I think that the pages are to be determined once we update our collection and reconsideration. It might be paged differently, but if we just say section 12, I think we're good.
Good idea. So do you want to include section 12, please?
Amend the policy, website policy to include section 12 heading as a standalone policy.
We don't need a second again, do we? Do we?
The person who seconded needs to agree to that.
Julie?
I second and agree.
Super. Super. Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous decision. Next, we have technology, and Ann Barachi is not here. Section 8, unfinished business. At the last meeting, we did talk about all of us bringing our ideas or thoughts, additional thoughts with respect to creating a new member orientation guide. I myself really didn't get to think about that because I've been busy with other things. Shall we just continue this in the future?
Yes.
Corbin?
I think we should push this off probably until January or into the new year, because we don't meet in December and the other deadline that we have is November. The only other thing that I thought of that we should add is making sure that each new person got a town email, since we have that option now. That was on there before.
Thank you, Corbin. Are we all in agreement?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, do we need an official motion to table this until January?
I move we push item number 7 off this agenda and put it onto the next January,
Yes, item number, oh, yeah, 7, you're right.
to the January meeting.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
And that was Claire Kowalik, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous decision. Next, we have new business. We have letter A, recommendations to the selectmen for filling vacancies on the Kmlc. I'd like to turn our attention to the bylaws. Article 2, I'll read it. Quote, recommendations to the selectmen for filling vacancies on the library commission may be made by the remaining members of the commission, end quote. I also want to point out that we have had a number of people that have, I'm sorry, I take that back, not a number of people. We've had some people who have served for previously had served for a very long time. Bob White, who has come to many meetings to offer information, he spent 28 years or 7 terms on the commission. Sam Quaddy, also from the documents that I have from Kathy Dunai. She as well was on for 28 years and 7 terms. Claire has also been a member since 2009 for 16 years, so that would be 4 terms. Is that correct, Claire?
I believe so.
Okay. And then Michael also, the information I have, it states that he began in 2011, and you've been on for approximately 14 years or 3 terms. Is that about right, Michael?
Yeah, I think it's longer than that, but we'll go with it.
Okay, I had just obtained this
After 12.
a couple of years ago. I don't have a time stamp on it. So why don't we go around in alphabetical order and each commissioner can speak, let's say a few words about their recommendations, or I just leave it up to each commissioner. So we'll start with Corbin. Oh, I'm sorry, Nina.
Could you please remind the public and the commission who is up for reappointment?
Oh, thank you. I did also want to state that as far as terms that are expiring, Corbin Azigare, Ann Barachi, Jim Irwin, Claire Kowalik, Christine Sinopoli, myself, and Despina Tartsinis. So there are 6 commissioners whose terms are expiring. Is there anything else? So Corbin, we'll start with you.
I'm not really sure what we're supposed to be doing right now. You want me to, I don't know who's planning to come back. Like, you guys know I'm not planning to come back. So there's a vacancy. We're talking about the 6 vacancies. Do I say, I'll pick Michael because he's next to me and he's not leaving. Do I just say, I think he's a stand-up guy and should come back? Or if I know somebody in the community?
Well, let me just interject that traditionally in town, the Democratic Town Party, the Republican Town Party, they would make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen for candidates they felt should be considered for appointment or reappointment. Fred had brought this up at the last meeting, and I had agreed to put it on the agenda. It is in our bylaws. Since my time on the commission, there never were discussions with the commission at large that I ever recall. But I'm trying to honor Fred's request. Fred, do you want to say something?
Fred appreciates it. And so I'll be as quick as I can. My understanding is that for a very long time, the practice was that when somebody's term came up, if they wanted another term, they got one. And that was changed, I believe, 2 rounds of elections ago. And the Board of Selectmen decided to do it differently. And it was clear that there was I want to try to say this neutrally, that the Board of Selectmen had a pretty clear agenda about ways that they wanted to change the commission, and they went about doing that. Now we have more people whose terms are up, and we have one vacancy with Corbin stepping on. And why I brought all of this up in the first place was to say it just seemed to me like the commission ought to have some role in some way in communicating to the Board of Selectmen their thoughts about the reappointments of the people who wish to remain. And if we have them, our thoughts or recommendations about anybody who's come forward, I don't know if anybody has, come forward and said, I'm interested in being on the commission in terms of filling Corbin's spot.
Well, Fred, I mean, it is a matter of opinion if you look at the history of the commission and the makeup of the commission, because a person could say, well, the history shows that it's been made up of persons of the Democratic Party and independents that lean left for a number of years, maybe even going on 30 years. And that would be one person's opinion. And, you know, you've expressed an opinion about the lack of reappointments. So we all have our different opinions. So tonight, we do have an opportunity to each just take a couple minutes and say if they recommend someone, and if you want to offer some explanation, you know, that would be great.
What I was trying to say is simply that in the last couple of rounds, as far as I know, the commission itself has not had that role, has not made those, the Board of Selectmen have made those decisions. I might agree or disagree with them, but I'm merely stating a fact. And so now most of the people, I believe, that are sitting at this table, with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions, hadn't experienced a situation where the board had input, and I thought it was time to revisit that.
The authority does rest with the Board of Selectmen, is what I understand per our town charter. And there are no term limits for serving on the Library Commission. To me personally, it does seem prudent, a person does a couple of terms, and then you want some fresh people to serve.
Can I speak?
Bob, go ahead.
Having been on a variety of boards and commissions in town, and currently serving on the Parish Council at Sacred Heart Church, where we started off with a grand and glorious plan of having elections and things like that, and we couldn't find anybody who wanted it. And some people have stayed on. I've been on for 10 or 12 years, and Rich Stitch just retired after 16 or 18 years. But in all of the other boards and commissions I've been associated with, the open positions were identified, given to the RTC or the DMC, the Democratic Committee, and said, okay, we've got X number of positions coming open, go find some candidates. And depending on how that went, they would come back to the Board or Commission and say, here are some people who are interested in running for this. And in some of the commissions or boards I was on, we would interview those people and talk to them and see if they would be a fit to what we wanted to accomplish. But I guess I'm a strong believer that if you don't have something to rejuvenate the commission, that it runs the risk of being so homogenous that you don't get anything accomplished, or you get only one party's thing accomplished. So I think that it's a great thing that we're going to make a recommendation to the select, but I think we ought to reach out to the community more through the RTC and the Democratic Party to get candidates to fill these 6 positions. Now, we may come back and say, we like the 5 that we got left. We'd love to have Corbin stay on a while longer, but I think if we say that we're going to have the political committees bring candidates to us, and we'll either discuss them or secret ballot or whatever. I'm a little uncomfortable saying, I choose you because you can hit the ball further. I'm going to choose you because, I'm a little bit uncomfortable doing that. I prefer a little more, structure to it. So
you feel uncomfortable making recommendations here?
Here in this form, I would like to see, fresh blood someplace to have the town political committees.
Who was that?
Go ahead, Corbin.
Was Corbin up? Was your hand up first? Okay, so Corbin,
So some comments and thoughts. I've had some things highlighted for a while. It would be good if the Board of Selectmen probably listened to this part, because then I don't have to go to a meeting and say it, because I was going to. In this Connecticut Public Library Trustee Handbook, put out this ACLB, Association of Connecticut Library Boards, that was all brought to our attention. They have a few things in here that I think that our town leadership did a few years ago when they started changing things. But it says that an effective public library board of trustees consists of informed and dedicated citizens representing a cross-section of the population and governs the library for the benefit of the community. I think when I came on, or when I was appointed to this board, I was that first round of the things being changed. When I came on, I have a U behind my name. I don't have the R and the D. When I came on the commission, there was, I believe, prior to me coming on, and Christine was appointed, and Josh at the time. Prior to that, I believe there was 1 or 2 Rs. So this commission, I don't think traditionally has actually been a good representation of our town, because our town, based on the past few elections, is more of a 50-50 split. So that's one thing. Also, they recommend here, they have several bullet points. Some have the very personal backgrounds, a diversity of age, race, and sex. I know for me, one of the things when I spoke with, because I actually first submitted my stuff to, it wasn't Colin, it was Melissa Mack, because she was the select person at the time. And what was interesting, or what was a draw, is that I homeschool. So that brought something different to the commission, to the board, on how different populations in town relate and use the library. We cannot have a commission of only retired people, or only moms of toddlers, or only empty nesters. We do need to have a variety of people with different various backgrounds. Something else that is listed here, in terms of membership, it says that no trustee should serve on the board indefinitely, no matter how dedicated and no matter how effective the trustee is. That goes to what Bob said, we need to have fresh blood. And there are other statements, those are just things that I highlighted. So yes, I think it's good that because we're all members of the community, we can all recommend people who would be good for it. And I do think this idea of going out and asking at least the RTC, DTC, who they would recommend, and we can sit and talk to them if the Board of Selectmen wants us to do that, and ask them questions. How are they involved in the library? Do you have a library card? How often do you use the library? We can sit and do that, but I don't personally have a problem with the Board of Selectmen changing it up. And I agree that we shouldn't have lifetime appointments, but I also don't think we should get rid of all of our senior knowledge all at the same time. I think it's good to keep a mix of people who've been here for 4 or 5 terms, and bringing in new people and training them up effectively.
Thank you, Corbin. Anyone else?
After you.
You can,
Well, I was just going to say, if this is possible, I like Bob's idea. It reinforced my Corbin that we, in our November meeting, have the opportunity to see what candidates might be being put forward by the 2 political committees in town, and there may be other people who are not. So if I understand correctly, it would be highly unusual for either the Republican or the Democratic Town Committee to put forward somebody who's unaffiliated. So I would just want to make space for people who are unaffiliated to get themselves
As
to the
Corbin
table.
said, I realize that there's no mechanism for that.
Well, they would have to self-nominate. I mean, I know that that's happened in the past when there have been vacancies on this board, that people have let Colin know that they were interested in somebody who were unaffiliated. But if we can do that, and if Colin and the board and the chairs of the 2 committees are willing to do that, then I think that's a great idea for us to spend time there. I'd be very happy with that process.
The only caveat I would add to that is on the boards and commissions, the elected boards and commissions, there's a mechanism for minority representation, so that you don't load the board up with all Democrats or all Republicans or all unaffiliated. So that, and I'm not sure how that would work, because.
yes, and I think the microphone is dead, but in any case, thank you. Back years and years ago, when I first wanted to get on this commission, there were a couple of us that were interested, and we went to the library commission. We came to a library commission meeting and sat down and made our case for why we thought we should be on the library commission.
And you still wanted to get on?
And I still wanted to get on, and I kept trying, and finally, ultimately, Colin put me on. But it took a long time. But what was available at that point in time was we as a group, speaking now as a commission member, we as a group were open to having people come in and present themselves as, potential colleagues. And I think that rather than sitting here and saying, well, I think this guy or that guy, or I'm not comfortable with that scenario either. But the bottom line is, I think that we could certainly be open to unaffiliateds or people from the parties coming directly to us and making their case. And then we could recommend to the Board of Selectmen that we've got these people who presented themselves to us and we'd like you to consider them. I mean, because they do, as Christine said, they do ultimately have the power. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just gonna leave it to each commissioner, if you wanna say something. So Corbin, would you like to say something, or would you like to pass? And then we could move on to Michael, or?
Can somebody else go first? Because with my last name, I've had to do a project first. Nobody else has done their project yet. So can somebody else please go first? I'll pass for now, but I reserve the right to come back.
Okay, how about you, Michael?
Well, having been, again, Mike Alexopoulos, having been one of those members who was part of that process that interviewed and so forth and recommended, I do think it's a healthy thing for us to get involved with that, so I do appreciate it. And I'll just make a comment about the people that we have on our list here that are leaving. And I also can appreciate the fact that turnover is not a bad thing. I think it's time for some older men to get kicked off. But seriously, I just know I've appreciated the diversity that you've brought. It's been difficult at times, no doubt about it. I do feel like we're moving in the right direction. It's how I'm feeling anyway, that we finally have got some wheels going. We have a wonderful director and assistant, and I want to see this thing keep going. I'm hoping that anyone who is interested in being reappointed gets reappointed, because I don't think any of those names that are on that list, even though Claire apparently has been around for a long time, wow, I wouldn't want to see you go anywhere at the moment. I'd like to see us continue this momentum and move forward. So I know Corbin, you've been a great asset, and I'm going to be sad to see you leave, because you're a hard worker and you represent a very definite part of our community that is underrepresented on our commission, for sure. And so I'm really glad. But honestly, I know I'm making it sound good, but I really feel that way. I'd want to see all these people reappointed if they want to come back. And we definitely need an attorney, so don't go anywhere, Christina. It's always good to have an attorney on the... Okay, don't go anywhere. So, but those are my words, and I'm willing to live up to them and pay a price for them.
Well, thank you, Michael, for your kind thoughts.
It's not just kind thoughts, I mean it. I mean, you are one of those people on that list, and I'm honestly feeling good about where we're at and moving forward.
Okay, Julie?
Well, I'm the new kid on the block, so I'm still learning the ropes, but I am impressed with how we do ultimately get things done and go through the tedious nature of the process. Yes, sometimes during our break, I know if I stand up, I might not come back, but that's just because the meetings are long. Aside from that, I think diversity as far as parties is always great. New blood is great, but again, to see those stay who want to. Also, I think this works. I think this commission works.
Thank you, Julie. So Commissioners Barachi and Booten are absent tonight, so we're on to Jim.
I think that the political diversity on this commission is a good thing. I think that there are voices on all sides of the equation. And in my mind's eye, I can see with 12 commission members, 4 unaffiliated, 4 Dems, and 4 Republicans, and we could probably get a lot done in a fairly substantial and positive manner if we were arranged like that. It's just my thought.
And next we have Claire Kmlc. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, I just think we've gotten away from looking at qualifications a little bit with some of the appointments. I think we absolutely do need somebody with a legal background. It's been quite a while since we've had somebody with an investment background. And with Michael's retirement, we've kind of lost any connection to the public schools. So, and I don't think there's any parents of public school students here anymore either. And I think that's, you know, that's an important thing because they are patrons of the library. So, but yes, I do think, you know, balance, the way Jim just presented it would be great. And, you know, that's it.
Thank you, Claire. Next we have Nina Kendrick.
I also appreciate the diversity of voices on the commission. We do have differing views, that's for sure, but I think we've worked well in discussing those things at the meetings, and I do think we're moving in the right direction, talking about tough things and making things happen.
Thank you, Nina. Bob, it's your turn.
I think I've already said enough for the night. Know how I feel. I think that the diversity is good, and I think that as long as it's some sort of balance someplace, that it doesn't make any difference really how we go about getting there, whether it's political parties giving names or us putting names in a hat or what. So.
Thank you, Bob. It's my turn, Christine Sinopoli. I just want to say that I have really enjoyed serving. I see it both as a responsibility and a privilege, and it has been an enormous amount of work. But I think it's important because it's a part of our self-government. Often you'll hear on the television set where they say, oh, we live in a democracy. And it always grieves me because we live in a constitutional republic. And what makes our country special is that we have the rule of law. We have written laws. We also have due process. These things are huge. And we have self-government. And part of that self-government is that we give of our time and our talents to the community. And, you know, Claire kind of touched on the qualifications. You know, one of the qualifications that I feel that I have is that I have common sense. Yeah, I have a 4-year degree from Smith College in economics, but I do have common sense. I'm very organized, but also I love Suffield. I love my town. I love the library, and I really do want to see it as a place where all people feel comfortable using the library. And I would like to serve another 4 years as a commissioner. I do feel that a couple of terms is good, and that it is important, as Bob said, to have new people. And you know, I feel this way generally about commissions, that we all need to be training people to take over, because there's going to come a day when we can't serve any longer. So I am of the philosophy you're not done until you're dead, and that it's our job to serve. So that's my piece, and now we'll move on to Fred.
I'm the new kid. Whoever said they were the new kid. I'm the new kid. I have been coming to these meetings a lot, and listening carefully, but I have not been in subcommittee meetings and other ways that one gets a flavor for a group and the people in it. What's important to me is that we have a mixture of perspectives on a variety of continua, and people have mentioned them. And I'm sort of a reluctant political animal. It makes me a little sad that in many people's minds, like, well, Democrat left, Republican right. I'm less interested in that than I am that we have a mixture of backgrounds and opinions and philosophies that come to the table and try to make good decisions. I tried 5 times. I was very glad to be appointed to this committee, and after 2 meetings of the policy subcommittee and tonight's meeting, I'm still glad. So that's really all I have to say.
Thank you, Fred. And last we have Despina.
Last but not least.
Right.
I'm of similar opinion to some of the other sentiments here, that if anyone who's served and is willing to continue to serve and take the time, it is time consuming. I think those that are probably would like to be reappointed have attended most, if not all, of the meetings. I know for myself, I've served 1 full term, and I had taken over Kathy Harrington's term, and actually I was done so at the request. I was sought out, so it wasn't me, coming forward and saying, this is something that I'm passionate about, but since serving, I've always been a library user. My family has. I've lived in this town forever, and I say forever, like since age 4. I'm happy serving with a diverse group, and I see my husband yawning and closing his eyes over there, and he's probably, I forced him to come to this meeting tonight because he's like, what do you do on Tuesday nights? And I'm sure he'd be happy that, I not get reappointed, but if I'm so appointed, I would happily serve, and I wish Corbin, I've enjoyed her, on this commission, and I wish she was actually seeking reappointment, but I understand, people, have families, other commitments, decisions to make, but I would happily serve again, and that's it. And I would look forward to serving with the others that are up for reappointment as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Despina. Next, we have public participation. Would anyone like to make a public comment? Neil?
Hi, Neil Hornish, Thorell Avenue. I'll make this quick, and then we all want to get out of here. Just 2 things. One, I can't speak to anything before today, but I know today when I went to the library, the book Blankets is in the adult section. Second thing, with what we've just been talking about, since there will be an opening, I hope this commission will reach out to Tess McCool. I know she's been interested in being on this for a long time. I believe she's unaffiliated, so I don't know if either of the parties may put her name forward. I don't know her personally. I don't know if she's still interested in being it, but on the board, but I think that might be someone to talk to. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Anyone else? Jonathan?
Hi, Jonathan Metcalf of Old Farms Lane. Libraries are essential community resources, should be protected. And thank you for taking the time to put together what hopefully will be a compliant policy. That wasn't easy. The comparison of a store clerk and a store manager, I don't think stacks up to the level of expertise that our librarians and their staff has. I just really want to thank, our librarian staff and for their commitment and through this kind of arduous process. Please forgive the town for anything that you felt was disrespectful to your level of education and commitment. It's unfortunate. I believe our freedom to read and to access information, among other freedoms, is at stake right now more than ever. And access to a wide range of viewpoints and to complex and difficult issues is fundamental to a functioning democracy. Banning books teaches fear and ignorance rather than independent thought and informed judgment. I care that people that I love that live in this town are represented by our library and by the books in the library, and that I feel welcome and this important and essential community space. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Anyone else have public comment? Okay, hearing none, who would like to make the motion to adjourn? Michael?
Actually,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I do have one thing to say, I guess maybe public comment is the right spot. I think the fact that we have people like Fred and Tess' interest in serving on this commission says it all. Okay, and I'll leave it at that. And the other quick comment, I think what Bob White was saying, I hope it didn't fall on deaf ears. I hope that we are going to get together and form some goals for our director in the coming year. I think that was something that was very worthy, and we did it for years. And honestly, I guess I missed the fact that maybe we hadn't done that for a couple of years, but we haven't had a director either. So it's like, I'm not sure who we were going to set goals for. The goal was to get a director that could stay for more than a month and a half.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
I move we adjourn.
Okay. Bob just dived right in there, so.
All right, Bob.
Second?
Never been bashful.
Okay, Jim Irwin seconded. And all those in favor? Okay, and what time do we have? Please?
10:30.
10:30 p.m.
All right, it's early.
All right, thank you all, good night.